wonderful champions out there, I welcome you to the Garden of Flowers. Now you might be wondering, there is no garden, ma'am, what are you saying? Basically, you are a biology student, and for a biology student, imagination should be at its peak level. So as of now, just imagine that we are walking down through a narrow lane which are surrounded by so many pretty little flowers like you guys, some yellow, some lavender, and the sun is shining bright. And today we are going to listen to their story. Not from them, obviously, they cannot speak. I will be speaking for them. My name is Jasmine Joy. I have covered one part of this chapter in the previous video. Make sure to watch it. Okay, jokes apart, it's very important for you to understand the basics, and then only we can go ahead in an advanced level. And I promise you from my end that I will be covering each and every line of your NCERT, and this particular video is going to be highly useful for KCET aspirants, so for covering up their basics out there, for PU2 because your PU2 is ongoing, and for CBSE students as well because you all share one particular book, and that is your NCERT. Before going ahead, I want to thank all of you who actively participated in answering the homework questions out there. It means the world to me. It shows that you're participating, you're listening to me. I feel heard. Okay, so thank you for that. Savita, Raj, Putta, Raju, Karthik, kudos to you, my dear children. You gave the answers, and that to the correct answers out there. And a special thanks to Putta, Raju, Karthik. Why? Because he even answered a question that I asked in middle of the session. That means that child was very much concentrating in the session. Kudos to you. Okay, and to all the other people out there, going ahead with what we covered and what we are going to cover in this particular video. So in the previous video, we covered male and the female reproductive organs of the plant, which included the megasporogenesis, the microsporogenesis, and all those things. If you have not watched the video, please go and watch it. Okay. Now in this session, we are going to go ahead. Anyway, pollens are being formed, the egg has been formed. Today we are going to talk about pollination, the pollen-pistil interaction, and double fertilization. What all in that, ma'am? We will talk about different types of pollination, autogamy, geitonogamy, and things like that. Agents of pollination, wind, water, biotic factors, all of it. Pollen-pistil interaction, double fertilization, syngamy, and triple fusion, all of it. Well, this chapter is going to be very important for all of you because in PU2 it gives around 11 questions each year. Not a small number. That's not 11 questions, 11 marks each year, and that's not a small number. For KCET, you get 3 questions, again, not a small number. Now, if at all you want the notes, it would be there in the WhatsApp channel. Please make sure you are getting added up there. Okay, now going ahead, why do you think you should believe us? Because we have brought ranks, not small ranks, big ones. 171, 443, 693, 752, 934. I'm not talking about the offline campuses. Offline campuses has n number of things. Obviously, this is just about the online, from YouTube, from our series. There are so many children who got benefited. They didn't just study from us. They also had their own schools and things like that. But definitely, we had a very big role to play, and they have told it themselves in the interviews that they have given to us. You can watch it in the YouTube channel as well if at all you want any mentorship from all these big people out there, right? And we wish that you also can acquire this position the next year, and that is why we are thriving for that. That is why we have a Sankalp, we have a determination to work really hard for you guys, and I hope you also have a determination like that. If at all you have it, okay, you have to tell us in the comment section. Ask, okay, ask ma'am, how are you? I'll also ask, how are you? This is how the conversation goes on. This is how even you will be feeling interested to study out new things out there. Okay, now starting off with the homework question, then we will be going ahead with the theory part of the chapter. I hope that works. So listen to me carefully for the answer. So how many microspore mother cells are needed for the meiotic division resulting in the formation of 256 pollen grains? So my dear children, they have put down the number, that is 256 pollen grains. Now you know there is one requirement of 1 MMC, that is microspore mother cell, to basically undergo meiosis and give rise to almost 4 microspores. 4 microspores, and these 4 microspores are the one that will be forming what? The pollen grains. Okay, now you have 256 pollen grains. 256 pollen grains. So my dear children, how many microspores would have been formed? So how do you find it? Basically divide by 4. You divide by 4 and you will get to know that almost you needed 64 meiotic division, or you needed 64 MMC, because 1 MMC gives and divides 4 of them. Again, another MMC will divide 4. Similarly, so 64 of them, if each of them has undergone one round of meiotic division, has given 4 microspores later on, these 4 microspores would be the one that would be forming 256 pollen grains later on. So your answer would be 64 microspore mother cell. MMC, that is how many you would be requiring. I hope that's clear. And now let's get ahead with our theory. The first thing that we're going to study is all about the types of pollination. First of all, what do you mean by pollination, my dear children? So you know, in the plants also there is male reproductive part and the female reproductive part. The male reproductive part is known as little anther. Okay, little anther and the filament together is known as the stamen. And then, my dear children, in the case of the female reproductive part, you have what? The ovary, the style as well as the stigma. Together you call this as pistil. So anther basically has so many pollen grains. It will be releasing all the pollen grains. This pollen grains would be landing on the stigma. This is known as pollination. The transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma is known as pollination. Done? Okay, now you have different types of pollination, and the first type is autogamy. What do you mean by that? Let's see what do you mean by autogamy. So over here, my dear children, look at this picture very carefully, okay? So these are the petals out there. You have the thalamus and thing. Okay, so basically there is the male reproductive part, okay, and there is the female reproductive part over here. Now the pollen grains from the male part lands on the stigma of the female part of the same flower. It is not going elsewhere. Suppose there is one flower here also. So it is not going elsewhere, but basically it is landing up here. So this type of pollination which happens within the same flower is known as autogamy. Now you tell me one thing. Is there any genetic variation that is going to occur? That means the baby that is going to be formed over here, do you think it will be different in this particular plant? It will be same like the plant on which the flowers are, right? Because the male gamete is also from the same plant. The female gamete is also from the same plant. So obviously the baby which is going to be formed is also going to be just like the same plant. Okay, so you do not see any genetic variations out there. You get it? Okay, so that is one big drawback of autogamy. But autogamy definitely happens in plants. Okay, so pollen from anther goes to the stigma of the same flower. It is known as autogamy. It is also a part of self-pollination. Now, this needs certain things. What are those things? It is needing synchrony in the pollen release and stigma receptivity. As in, just suppose the pollen grains are being released and stigma is like, you cannot come and land on me. Can it do like that? If it happens, my dear children, do you think pollination can happen successfully? No. So it needs synchrony, that is, the pollen should be released at the same time when the stigma is receptive, such that the pollen can land over there and go ahead with the next process. So it needs synchrony. Okay, please understand that. That is one very important thing for autogamy to happen. Now, my dear children, out of blue, in NCERT, they are talking about 2 different type of flowers. I know it's kind of confusing to see it out there, but I'll tell you why they have included it that way. So they are talking about 2 different type of flowers when they were talking about the types of pollination. So let me talk and then I'll make you understand that. So I will also teach just like your NCERT, okay. So there are 2 types of flowers. One is clistogamous flower, another one is chasmogamous flower. Chasmogamous flowers are the ones which are open like this. Okay, and clistogamous flowers are the one which are closed. So just imagine this thing is closed. What happens? Still the stamen, still the pistil is there within it, right? So in that case, can you expect that pollen grains would be coming from somewhere else and pollinating over here? No, Baba. It's all closed, right? This situation is like it's all closed. So whatever pollination would be happening, it would be definitely autogamy. Is there any other chance of anything else to happen? No. Okay, so in clistogamous flower, the flowers which are closed, clisto, Cl, closed, Cl, okay. In clistogamous flower, autogamy is something that always happens. Now, this is the reason why they put 2 type of flowers over here. Okay, now there is chasmogamous flowers as well. So basically what happens, there is a plant, suppose there is a plant, this plant has both type of flowers, one can be open and the other can be closed. But the thing is, they have both the male and the female reproductive part over here. So in this closed one, which is clistogamous, my dear children, every time only one type of pollination happens and that is autogamy. And now if you are asked, is it good thing or is it bad thing? What do you say? Is it advantageous or is it disadvantageous? Basically, it is both. Advantageous because whatever happens, my dear children, you do not have to wait for any pollinating agents like bees and stuff like that. Anyway, pollination would definitely happen. Seed will definitely be formed. Its seed is a result of sexual reproduction, right? It will anyway be formed. So I can say assured seed set production would be there. That means their generation would keep on going on. That's not a matter of worry. That is the advantage. But what is the disadvantage? There is no genetic diversity, my dear children. So if suppose the parent plant was not that great, the child plant, okay, the baby plant which is gonna grow, it is also not going to be that great. You get it? That is the disadvantage. There is no genetic diversity. And also there is one more disadvantage. What is that? Basically, when the plants, they do self-pollination like this. At the end, because there are certain toxic traits in the parents that keeps on going, what happens at the end is that the plants, the baby plants which are going to form, it is not going to be fertile, as in it might not be able to reproduce later on, or probably there might be some problem with the plant. So this is known as inbreeding depression. Okay, what do you call this? Inbreeding depression, about which you want to study again. Okay, in this particular session only you will be studying that. So inbreeding depression can happen in the plants that undergo self-pollination. So autogamy, it is advantageous because a short seed set is being produced. That is the only good thing. But disadvantage, there is no genetic diversity, and also, my dear children, there is inbreeding depression that can be happening up. Now if we talk about the next type of flowers, that is chasmogamous. In chasmogamous flowers, my dear children, since the pollen grains, the stamen and the pistil is like open, what can happen? The pollen from other flower, from the other plant can also come and do pollination. So it's totally cool with them. And we're going to study what type of pollination is that known as. Okay, so first understand autogamy. Autogamy means anther to the stigma of the same flower. Okay, and it needs what? It needs synchrony of what? Pollen release and stigma receptivity. Okay, and clistogamous flowers are the one that definitely shows what? Autogamy. Chasmogamous flowers which are there, it can show autogamy, but it can show other type of pollination as well. This is just one type of pollination. So chasmogamous flowers can show other type of pollination, about which we are going to soon study. Now this type of plants where you get both type of flowers, examples are there? Yes ma'am, there are 3 examples given in your NCERT. Is it given over here? No, let me teach you then. Okay, what are these 3 plants? So first one is, here it is written, Viola, the next is Oxalis, and the third one is Commelina. So Viola, Oxalis, Commelina, these are the 3 plants that you have that have both chasmogamous as well as clistogamous flowers. Now over here in your NCERT, picture is given something like this. The open flowers are there and the closed flowers are there over here. Okay, the closed flowers are there. Now you might be thinking, ma'am, it's kind of roots, right? So basically the closed flowers are actually found beneath the, beneath the soil, or sometimes it can grow a little above the soil level as well, but it is towards the root region. You get it? The closed flowers. And over here is a real-time picture of that I could find. These are the clistogamous flowers, the closed ones that you can see. Okay, that is towards the soil region, and moreover towards the above region you would be having the chasmogamous flowers. So what are the examples? Viola, Oxalis as well as Commelina. Then, now going ahead and talking about what else can happen in chasmogamous flowers. What are the other type of pollination? So the other type of pollination is, one is geitonogamy and the other one is xenogamy. So geitonogamy, as you can see over here. So until now we are talking about just single flower pollinating from here to here. That was the case, right? Now what will happen if there are 2 flowers but on the same plant? It's on the same plant. Okay, from here, suppose it has the anther. This also has the anther. This has the, not just the anther, the stamen. Okay, so there is stamen as well as pistil here. There is stamen as well as pistil over here. So pollen grains from here land on the stigma right over here. What type of pollination is this? Can it be autogamy? No, it's not the same flower. It is different flower, ma'am, but it's the same plant. So this type of pollination is known as geitonogamy. Now tell me one very important thing. Again, the baby plant that is going to be produced, or the seed that is going to be produced, do you think it will show genetic diversity? Can it show genetic diversity? Tell me in the comment section below. Well, I'll tell the answer right itself, so you don't need to answer in the comment section, but yes. So basically, my dear children, they are not going to show genetic diversity. Why? Again, both of them are belonging to the same parent plant, so how can it show genetic diversity? So it is functionally cross-pollination. Okay, functionally it is cross-pollination that is happening over here, but genetically, if we talk about that, it is autogamy. This particular line is very, very important for geitonogamy. So functionally it is cross-pollination, but genetically it will be like autogamy itself. Geitonogamy means stigma of another flower on the same plant. Now this particular flower is liking that particular flower and pollination is happening there. So these are two separate plants, my dear children, and from here it is going there and it's landing peacefully over there. Okay, pollination is happening. What do you call this? Xenogamy. This is known as xenogamy, and I'll tell you, it is easy for you to remember if you remember like this. So there's a cross over here. So X stands for cross and X for xenogamy. Okay, so stigma of different plant. This is pollen to the stigma of different plant is happening. This is actual cross pollination. This is true cross pollination because it brings genetic diversity. So only type of pollination that brings genetic diversity will be what? Xenogamy, my dear children. Now let's come back to the previous slide and you tell me now, in chasmogamous flower, this is a first homework question. Homework question 1. Okay, you have to tell me the answer for this. This type of chasmogamous flowers, what all type of pollination can they show? Okay, can they show? When they have both anther as well as, both the stamen as well as the pistil. What all type of pollination can they show? Your homework question. Question number 1, you have to tell me in the comment section below. Okay, done. So these are the 3 types of pollination: autogamy, geitonogamy and xenogamy, my dear children. Remember, it is functionally cross-pollination, but just like autogamy, that's not the case. It's true cross-pollination, and that's the only one that brings genetic diversity. Now going ahead with agents of pollination, there might be organisms responsible for pollination, right? So my dear children, in agents of pollination you have biotic agents and you have abiotic agents. What do you mean by biotic and abiotic? Biotic as in the one that are living, for example, bees, butterflies, organism, big organism, lizards, rodents and stuff like that. Abiotic as in something that is not living, for example, wind, water and everything. So in the case of pollinating agents, the one that is leading over here, okay, leading, this is 0, this is 1, it is biotic agents. Okay, biotic agents are the most, the popular agents out there for pollination. Now if we talk about abiotic agents, you have wind, okay, and you have water and things like that. Among them, wind is the one that is leading. Wind is the one that would be leading and water is the one that is not leading, obviously. Yes, so this is about the agents of pollination. Is that all? Is that the only thing that we have to learn over here? No, we have to go ahead in depth about each of them. So in your PU2 examination, questions would be asked. You have to explain what are the features of the plants which undergo wind pollination. So all of the plants have different features, my dear children, which makes them adapted to all this type of pollination. Now in wind pollination, you only think the pollen grains which are released, if they are sticky, what will happen? It will go stick somewhere. Suppose the pollen grain which has to land there, but it's like, I will go stick over here. Can it move ahead and do the pollination, children? No. So one thing that we can use of common sense is that basically the pollen grains, they should not be sticky, it should be non-sticky. And if it's suppose it is very, bulky, the pollen grain, do you think it will be able to fly? No, my dear children, it won't be able to fly. Then at that point of time, obviously you would also understand one more fact, that it has to be light. So we are going to learn the features in this manner, so it will be easy for you to understand. Pollen grains, my dear children, it's light and non-sticky for easy wind transport. Now talking about the stamen. The stamen is the one that has the anther and the filament. The anther has the pollen grains. Now about the stamen, if it is wind pollinated, my dear children, the wind has to carry the pollen grains, and for that the stamen has to stand tall such that the wind can easily carry. Suppose it is chotu. In that case, chotu like me, I am also short-headed, okay. Suppose chotu like me, what will happen, my dear children? The pollen grains will be like, it won't be able to go because a lot of other things will be there over here. You get it? So it has to be tall. Okay, so stamens has to be well exposed, that is the correct word for it, for easy pollen release. And what about the stigma? The stigma is the one which receives the pollen grains, my dear children. That should be what? It should be large and it should be like feathery. Okay, it should be feathery such that it can capture all the pollen grains which comes through the wind. So stigma should be large and it should be feathery to trap the pollen grains. Okay, and what about the flowers? Flowers, my dear children, since wind pollination, if you compare with biotic agents, it's not very popular, right? As you know. So in that case, there will be only single ovule per ovary in the case of wind pollinated plants. Okay, there will be many flowers, there can be many flowers, okay, they come together, but each of them would be having just a single ovule. Why, my dear children? Because the ovule will be having the female gamete and you do not want to waste the energy of the plant to make that particular ovule, which is why you just because wind pollination is not necessarily going to happen. Okay, the chances of pollination is kind of less if you compare with biotic agents. That is why you don't want to make multiple ovules out there. So that is why many are there but with single ovule. Okay, example, corn cob tassel. So over here you see, my dear children, the picture is given like this in your NCERT. I thought I'll show you a real time picture. So this is the corn cob. Array, zoom, why is not array? I selected something else. Okay, come on, yes. So these are the tassels that you see over here. What are these things that you see over here, my dear children? These tassels are nothing but the stigma and the style. Okay, these are the stigma and the style which is there, the feathery one which is there to capture all the pollen grains out there. Okay. So actually this point should be coming up from here at this point, but yeah, okay. Anyways, so please understand pollen grains are light and non-sticky. Okay, stamens well exposed and the stigma which is there is large and feathery. The flowers could be many, but each of them would be having only one ovule. That's all. Okay, an example if you want, corn. Corn shows wind pollination. Please understand, in your NCERT one more very important line is given, that is wind pollination is very common in what? Grasses. So grasses is something that shows wind pollination for sure, and apart from that you have one more example just I just said, that is of corn. Okay, and wind pollination is known as anemophily. That is also there, that you do not have to learn. Okay, just for your understanding I have kept it there, it's not in your NCERT. Okay. Now going ahead with the next type of pollination that is there, which is water pollination, which is kind of very interesting. So in water you might have seen water lotus and water lily. They have water in their name, but let me tell you one very important thing. They do not show water pollination. Okay, they do not show water pollination. They do not want to be in that gang. Basically they show insect pollination and wind pollination and stuff like that, but not at all water pollination. Please understand that. Okay, so it is usually biotic agents which are responsible for that, that is bees and everyone, because they look good, they have good scent and nectar and stuff like that. So that's the reason. So they are in water but they do not show. Who show water pollination? The plants, probably you might have not heard about them very well, but I'll tell you the examples. Okay, so it is common in algae, the bryophytes and the pteridophytes. This you have studied in 11th grade, right? Before studying plant kingdom, you have different categories, right? Divisions of plant. So algae, bryophytes and pteridophytes, it's common in them because they need water for fertilization. Examples are Vallisneria hydrilla. Hydrilla is freshwater, my dear children. Zoostera is marine seagrass. So you have Vallisneria as an example, you have hydrilla as an example, and you have Zoostera as an example. Here hydrilla is freshwater. Okay, that means it is found in water where the salinity is less, where the amount of salt in the water is less. Zoostera is marine, that means where the amount of salt in the water would be more. Okay, so Vallisneria, hydrilla and Zoostera are the ones. Now they also have different types. So in Vallisneria, the female flowers float. So this is the Vallisneria plant, I'll show you. This is the Vallisneria plant. So over here, as you can see, the female flower is mostly towards the top, right? It's just right there. What about the male flowers? They are over here. But they send the flowers they slowly move out and they go up. The pollen grains and all this come over here and slowly go meet with what? The female flowers and send their pollen grains out there. You get it? So the pollen grains which are there dropped over here, it will slowly move with the water currents. It will slowly move with the water currents and they will reach down there to the female flowers. So that is how things happen in the case of Vallisneria. So female flowers float, male flowers male flowers or basically the pollen would be drifting to them. So it can be either the flowers as a whole, it can be drifting, or the pollen grains which land on the water, my dear children, it will be slowly drifting towards the female flowers. This is in the case of Vallisneria, and this is how Vallisneria looks. Okay, now going ahead up, talking about the seagrass which is there. Okay, seagrass, the pollination occurs. Seagrass is nothing but Zostera. Okay, please understand, it's the same thing. In them, the pollination occurs underwater. So this is Zostera. As you can see, it's totally submerged under water. And in this case, my dear children, the pollen grains which are released, they are ribbon-like. They are what? Ribbon-like. So they can easily move in the water. Okay. So over here, please understand, pollination occurs underwater and the pollen is long and ribbon-like in the case of Zostera. So it is happening in the submerged condition. Submerged means it is within, inside. Okay, and usually the pollen grains which are there in the water, they are covered by an extra layer that is known as mucilaginous covering. This prevents what? Wetting. If it wets, my dear children, it will desiccate. It will be not in a good condition. You know, flowers or basically what do you call, the leaves and all, when they get wet, it desiccates slowly. You get it? So that is why they have a mucilaginous covering as well. So my dear children, water lily and water lily and lotus, they are not gonna show water pollination. They rely on what? Pollinators like bees and things like that. So they are gonna show insect pollination. Okay, it's usually the bees and beetles. Now the ones that show is Vallisneria, it is Zostera, and as well as the Hydrilla. Hydrilla is freshwater, Zostera is marine. Okay, Vallisneria is the one where the female flowers are at the top and the male flowers or the pollen grains would be coming there, and Zostera is the one where the submerged condition and the pollen grains would be coming in. It's ribbon-like condition that it is having, and it also has a mucilaginous covering over it. Okay, my tongue is getting twisted after saying for too long, I don't know. Yes, and now one very important thing, something that you do not expect a question coming from, and that is it is rare in flowering plants. Okay, it is rare, water pollination, it is kind of rare in flowering plants. Only 30 genera, mostly monocots, are the one that shows pollination, that shows water pollination. Please understand that. Okay, so it is rare in flowering plants. Only 30 genera, 30 number is very important, 30. Okay, they show water pollination. That is also important for you. And apart from that, algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, are all of them. Okay, I'll show you a question and then you will understand the importance. Now going ahead with the next part, that is agents of pollination which are insects and animals, my dear children. So as of now, I am pretty sure you know about insects being pollinators, but animals, have you ever imagined that? Well, I also never did so, but I got to know. Okay, so birds can be pollinators, bats can be pollinators, primates such as lemurs. Primates are the one whose brain capacity and everything is big. Okay, so lemurs can be pollinators, rodents can be pollinators, rodents as in your mice and stuff like that. Okay, reptiles such as geckos, lizards, they also can be pollinators. And apart from that, you have bees, butterflies, flies and all, they come under insect. Now, for insect pollinated plants, my dear children, what are the features that would be there? So first thing, it has to be large, it has to be colorful, it has to be fragrant. Okay, it has to have some odor, my dear children. Then only the insects would be attracted to it. Not that they can see the colors out there, but they have different type of vision, and these big flowers helps in pollination to happen in that case. Okay, and my dear children, if at all the flowers are small, they would be coming together to form inflorescence such that it appears big. Okay, so small flowers, they would be clustered in inflorescence for visibility. Now, if there are flowers which are pollinated by flies and beetles, they do not like the good smell. When they have the good smell, they are like us when we smell bad things. Okay, like blah. Right, so but for them it's the opposite way. When they have bad smell, they will be like, oh nice, this is my meal today. So fly and beetles, my dear children, for those flowers which are pollinated by them, it will be secreting foul odors, as in bad odor, so that it can be attracted. Okay, and if you talk about the pollen grains, my dear children, here it should not be non-sticky. Here it should be the opposite. It should be sticky, such that I am a bee, I come over here, I drink the nectar, and if I just go like that, it's bad, right? Basically on my the outer covering, certain pollen grains would be coming and sticking up, and that's how I can transport the pollen grains to the next plant out there. So here sticky pollen grains are found. So it ensures attachment to the animal body. So these are the features that you should be remembering and writing on the day of examination for your PU2. Now, there are certain floral rewards also. They are like, they show corruption, okay? They open corruption is there. They're like, please do pollination, we can give you nectar, we can give you pollen grains to eat. You take and eat some and you parcel some of this. Okay, so it's just like that. So nectar and pollen attract the pollinators, my dear children. Some flowers, apart from that, okay, they give their home also. So basically, some flowers offer safe places for the organisms to lay their eggs. Okay, for example, Amorphophallus. Have you heard about it? So this is Amorphophallus. Oh my god, I actually broke the code. So you had to guess who is who. But anyways, I have anyway told. This is Amorphophallus, my dear children. It's almost like 6 to 7 feet tall out there. It's very, very big. Not 6 to 7 feet tall, it's more than 8 feet tall, sorry, yeah, 8 feet tall, okay, this particular flower, and it has a very bad odor, but you know what, it gives safe space for laying the eggs for the pollinators, and that's very big thing. Okay, so that is one floral reward, and not just that, my dear children. I'll tell you the another ultimate story about the next plant which is there, which is yucca. So this is the plant which is there, and this is the wasp which is there. Not the wasp exactly, it's moth, not wasp, it was moth. Wasp is in some other chapter. Yeah, so there's a moth, and there is this particular plant that is known as yucca. Yucca is also known as soap weed, because from this yucca plant you can extract soapy things and stuff like that. It is very useful, okay, in general, this particular plant. I just read a story about it which is kind of very, very interesting about both of them. They have a good time together, okay, they are very, very good friends out there, and if you want to know the story, do let me know. Okay, I'll try to put it in the next video about in the PYQ chapter, sorry, in the PYQ lesson. It will be really interesting, I'm telling you. I do not have time as of now to discuss about that because it is already 31 minutes and I have to cover a lot. Yeah, but if you want to hear about that, do let me know. I'll be making a video on that. So yucca and moth, I'll tell you what happens exactly. So over here, moth lays the egg inside the yucca's ovary. Okay, and there it will be giving birth, it will be hatching up, and it will be coming out. Okay, and what's the good thing for yucca in it? Basically, when the moth is going to the next place, it will be transferring the pollen grains as well. So again, it is providing a safe space for laying eggs, and they actually have an obligate relationship, as in they cannot survive without each other. This is known as obligate mutualism. Okay, so that kind of relation they have, and as I told, there is something else also which I will be telling it later, if at all you want to hear out from me. And this is Amorphophallus, please remember both of them. So these are the floral rewards, and this is about animal and insect pollinated plants. And now we are going ahead with the next thing, that is all about the outbreeding devices and emasculation. So I forgot to put it in the front part, okay, of the intro, but yes, this is also something that we are going to cover over here. So what do you mean by outbreeding devices, my dear children? I told you, inbreeding means what? Basically, in the same plant, the male part, female part of fusing together, it is going to cause all the toxic traits to be here itself in the baby plant, and it might not be able to do better in life. Why? Because it has all the bad things in it. You get it? It is not fertile. If you talk in scientific language, it might not be fertile, it might not be adaptable, and it might not be disease resistant. There are a lot of features out there, and this is known as, this is kind of depressing, right? It's sad, and this is known as inbreeding depression. So to prevent self-pollination, the plant itself has thought that this is not good, I have to do something about it. I will be having certain outbreeding devices, as in something that will force the plant to go and pollinate with some other plants. Okay, that is outbreeding devices, and let's see what are those. So what is the need of it? To prevent inbreeding depression due to continuous self-pollination, my dear children, and the mechanism to promote cross-pollination. Time difference. So I told you, for autogamy to happen, my dear children, for autogamy to happen, we needed synchrony, right, between the pollen release and the stigma receptivity. Suppose the time is different, the stigma receptivity time is different from the pollen release, then obviously this pollination would not be happening successfully. So pollen release and the stigma receptivity is not being synchronized, and that is in the time difference device. That is the first thing. Now the second thing is spatial separation. If you thought device to be actual device, You're wrong. Okay, now spatial separation is there. What do you mean by spatial separations? For example, I'll tell you. So over here, this is the flower that we are having. Stigma is only this much. Or probably, wait. The pistil which is there, it is this much. Okay, but the anther over here, it's like this. Obviously, it cannot go flying up there. It's like a blockage. It's kind of up. So you see, the spatial separation is like with the anther and the stigma are positioned very much differently, such that the pollen grains cannot land up there. So that is one thing. So this is the second point. Now the third thing is something that the plant has said, like, okay, you want to do self-pollination? Do. Whatever happens, I am not going to let that pollen grain germinate. So, you know germination, right? I taught you in the previous session. So, what happens is that pollen grain is there. It has the male gametes in it. Yeah. So, pollen grain, once it lands on the stigma and finds that everything is good, it sends a tube with the male gamete. This is known as germination, pollen germination. Okay, that needs a lot of synchronization in the plant itself. But now in this particular case, if the plant has decided to be self-incompatible, basically it has certain genetic changes up there. Okay, it has certain genetic changes in the plant itself, such that the pollen grain of the same plant, my dear children, when it comes on land, it is not able to do pollen germination. It won't be able to form the pollen tube. This is known as self-incompatibility, and this is a total genetic mechanism. So it is what? A genetic mechanism that prevents self-pollen from fertilizing ovules. Okay, that is one thing. Now, the last thing is production of unisexual flowers. Now, that is something that you might have heard in your 11th grade, but yes, some of you might have forgotten. Yeah, so I'll tell you what do you mean by unisexual flowers. As in, suppose this is a flower. If it has both the male and the female parts, you will call this as bisexual flower. Would you call this bisexual flower? On the other hand, you have just the female part. This is the female flower. And then on the other hand, you just have the male part, this will be the male flower. So these flowers that you see, they are unisexual. They are what? Unisexual. Now, there are two types. These are about the flowers. Now, if you talk about the plants, my dear children, there are two types of plants. Monoecious plants, or you have dioecious plants. Okay, monoecious and dioecious plants. So, monoecious are the ones which has both the sexes in one particular plant. As in, it can be like this, it can have flowers like this, or probably it can have both of these flowers over here. Flowers, they are unisexual. Flowers, it can be unisexual. Okay, but the plant, it has both male and the female flowers. So, that is why it is known as monoecious. It is known as monoecious. Again, listen to me. It can have female and male flowers separately, or it can have both of them together also. Either way, this condition is known as monoecious condition. Okay, this is known as monoecious condition. Now, I am not going to talk about this particular flower. Okay, I'm just going to talk about the condition where the plant is there and both of them are separate. The male and the female flowers are separate over here. This is also monoecious condition. In monoecious, you have two conditions. One condition is this, right? So, over here, suppose you have this. So, what will happen? Basically, it can prevent autogamy. This can prevent autogamy. Why? Because the male part is not, if the female part is not there, that is why anyway self-pollination is not going to happen. But can it prevent geitonogamy? Can it prevent geitonogamy? No, my dear children. Still, it can do like this. Still it can happen like this. So, monoecious flowers or monoecious plants, my dear children, example castor and maize, male and the female flowers on the same plant prevents autogamy but not geitonogamy. I told you in monoecious condition, you have one more condition where both the female and the male flowers are also together. In this condition, you cannot prevent autogamy also. But at least in this condition where monoecious plants have unisexual flowers, you can at least prevent autogamy, but you cannot prevent geitonogamy. Again, a very important question. Example is castor and maize. Now, the next condition is dioecious flowers, dioecious plants. What do you mean by dioecious plants? Dioecious plants means you have two plants and two of them have separate sexes. Suppose it will be having only female flowers and it will be having only the male flowers. In this case, obviously, you will prevent autogamy. You will also prevent geitonogamy because only female and male is there. But And what are you going to promote? You are going to promote xenogamy. So this is the perfect thing. And where do you see it? In the case of papaya. Papaya are dioecious. So male and female flowers are on different plants, and it prevents both autogamy as well as geitonogamy. Okay, got it? Okay, that is about the dioecious plants over there. Cool. So unisexual flowers, and then in that you can have monoecious condition or dioecious condition. Monoecious as in this one, not the other one. And here example is castor and maize, and dioecious example is papaya. Over here you have a picture. So you see, I was telling about the same thing. So this is what? This is, I suppose, castor. Okay, this is castor. And in the case of castor, my dear children, these are this thing that you see in a big globe. Okay, this is the male flower that you are having, and these are the female flowers that you are having. So male and female flowers are totally separate, but over here obviously autogamy is prevented, but geitonogamy is not going to be prevented. Okay, so this is the case of, just a second, this is the case of castor. Now going ahead over here, in this particular case, this is papaya. You see, this is the female flower, and this thing obviously it is not very significant, but they definitely have some male flowers out here as well, which is kind of little bit different from the female flowers internally. So they have two separate plants for male and the female flowers. This side is known as dioecious plant. I hope you got it. Okay, so these are the mechanisms to promote cross-pollination or to prevent self-pollination. These are the outbreeding devices: time difference, spatial separation, self-incompatibility, and formation of unisexual flowers. You can write these points and you will get your marks. Okay. Now remember the names as well: castor and maize. CM, Chief Minister. Chief Minister monoecious. Chief Minister monoecious. Okay. Do not go the other way, do not think much, okay. And dioecious is just papaya. DP, what do you call it? DP is, you use WhatsApp DP and things like that, you say, right? So DP and CM, okay, you can remember like that. You can just imagine CM's DP is pretty good. That is how you can imagine, okay, or whatever you want to say, you can say. Now the next thing, my dear children, is artificial hybridization. Artificial hybridization means human beings are not tired of doing anything. They want to intrude in plants' life also nowadays. Okay, so basically what happened is like human beings want to make specific type of plants which are pretty good. So what do? Suppose I have this particular plant over here, okay, and a flower bud over here, which basically this particular plant which is there, it has great disease resistance. Okay, and I have another plant. Where do I get it from? Okay, I have some other plant. Okay, I'll make it over here. This plant, my dear children, it is drought resistant, as in it can survive even when water is not that much. Okay, it is drought resistant. So I have disease resistant plant and also drought resistant plant over here. So what has happened exactly is that I want to mix both of them, and I want them to have a baby plant out there. So what do I do is that this plant, if I have it, okay, suppose this has both the male and the female parts. So I'm going to remove the male part from here. Why? Because otherwise again self-pollination can happen, and I don't want that to happen. Okay, so what do? I'm going to remove the anthers, or basically the stamen from here, the male part from here, and this process is known as emasculation. What do you call it? Emasculation. Masculine. I am emasculine, that means I am removing it. Okay, the masculine factor of it. Now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to cover, okay, whatever is left behind is the female part, right? So I'm going to cover this flower bud. This is known as bagging. What do you call it? Bagging. I just want to wait until the stigma becomes receptive. Once the stigma is receptive, my dear children, once the stigma is receptive, this is the second step. I will wait for it to be receptive. Once it is receptive, what will I do? Basically, I am going to collect the pollen grains from here. I am going to collect the pollen from here, from this particular plant, and now I am going to remove this bag. I am going to put the pollen on the stigma of this particular plant, and I am going to rebag it again. I am going to rebag it again. Pollination has happened, but by whom? By human beings, by human interference, my dear children. So which is why it is known as artificial Hybridization as a new hybrid, new thing you are forming, right? Hybridization. So the first thing is emasculation, where you remove it if it is a bisexual flower. Okay, if it is a bisexual flower, as in it has both the sexes, my dear children, you will be removing the male part. This is known as emasculation, and then you will wait for the stigma to become receptive. But you cannot just wait, you have to bag it up, because pollen grains from other plants can also come in, right? That's why you bag it up. Now you will wait until it becomes receptive, and once you know it is receptive, what do? You collect the pollen grains from the other plant, which is pretty good. Okay, you take the pollen grains and you remove the bag, you put it on the stigma, and you again close it up so that the pollination and the fertilization can happen. Now if it is in the case of unisexual flowers, where only one sex is there in one particular plant, you do not have to do the process of emasculation. Please understand that. Now what is the purpose of artificial hybridization, my dear children? This is again one very important thing from which question came the previous year in PUC Board. Okay, purpose is to cross different species, genera for superior commercial varieties. So they asked, what is that process known as, where you're crossing different species for superior commercial varieties? And children got, what do you call, all tensed up. Even I got confused. Okay, because when you have the whole NCERT in front of you, you see in different chapters, in biotechnology and all, you see different stuff out there. So obviously it's what do you call, slightly confusing, but yes, it was artificial hybridization. Okay, later I was pretty sure that this is the answer, so I went ahead with it. I read the NCERT. In the NCERT, I found it in somewhere in between the lines of the paragraph. Oh yes, I have a proof, I can show it up. So this is how it happened. I'm telling you again, the NCERT line by line reading is very much important, so please do that. Okay. Now, emasculation is basically removal of anthers from the bisexual flowers before dehiscence using forceps. What do you mean by dehiscence? Anther, it dehisces and then it releases pollen grains. So before it does that, you have to remove the total stamen itself. Okay. Now, bagging is covering pollen flowers with butter paper to prevent unwanted pollen contamination. And pollination process, if we talk about that, once the stigma is receptive, desired pollen is dusted over it and the flowers are rebagged to allow fruit development. And last, for unisexual flowers, no emasculation needed, only bagging before flower opens. That's all, as I told you already. So that is about artificial hybridization. Got it? Yes. And now we are going to go ahead with pollen pistil interaction and double fertilization. My dear children, are you having fun listening to this particular video? Is it helpful for you? I hope it is helpful. Okay, now let's go ahead with this thing. What do you mean by pollen pistil interaction? Pollen grain and the female reproductive parts interaction is known as pollen pistil interaction. Now, it is a dynamic process. It involves recognition of pollen by the pistil. The pistil has to recognize, hey, I am from the same company, da. Hey, come on, you have to welcome me, da. Okay, so it's like that. So recognition of pollen has to happen, but my dear children, it can result in two things. One is you are rejected, that is inhibition. Second thing is you are welcome, that is promotion. So basically what happens is that the pollen grains lands on the stigma. There is some chemical communication that happens between them, because the pollen grains on the top of it, okay, the pollen grains on the top of it, it will have small receptors out there which would be going and binding on certain things that are present on the stigma. If it is totally fine for them to come and interact towards each other, then only the the promotion can happen. Okay, and what do you mean by promotion? What exactly happens? Basically, the pollen grain which is there, which has both the cells out there, that is vegetative and generative cell. Now, children who have went and heard my previous video, tell me how much percentage of plants are coming in two cell stage like this, with one vegetative cell and one generative cell. Okay, you have to tell me. So usually what happens, there is vegetative and generative. Sometimes this generative cell again divides and it gives two male gametes before coming and landing over here only, it divides. Now in this case it has not happened, so it has divided now after coming and landing on the stigma, it divided. Now you have three cells in total. One is the vegetative cell and the other two cells are the two male gamete cells that you are having over here. Now what happens is that basically, my dear children, the pollen grain which is there, you know there is plasma membrane, there is intine and there is exine, the discontinuous layer which is made up of sporopollen, and these are the germ pores. So what happens is that this vegetative cell which is there, the big cell which is there, it will slowly move like this outside, forming something that is known as the pollen tube. It forms the pollen tube, and in the pollen tube, who would be coming around? These two male gametes would be carried down in the pollen tube. Okay, so there is generative, you also call this generative cell as tube cell. What do you call it? Tube cell, because it is going to form the pollen tube. Okay, and so generative nucleus is there, the pollen and the two male gametes you are having, and all of it is going to go within the style. So it landed on the stigma, it will go through the style and it will go towards what? The ovary, my dear children. Okay, so male gamete formation in plants where the pollen is shed at two-celled stage, that is this. Okay, the generative cell divides during tube growth to form two male gametes. So when the tube growth is happening right here, that's when it will be dividing and sending the two male gametes out there. Okay, in plants with three-celled pollen, I told you already, when you have already divided the gametes into two and you have the vegetative cell, in this case, the pollen already contains the two male gametes. So the tube would be carrying the two male gametes anyways. Okay. Now later what happens, my dear children, I am going to make a proper picture over here. Listen to me and look out. So this is the stigma, this is the style, and this is your ovary. Here is your ovule, suppose, and over here you have two synergids and one egg cell. Synergids I'm going to color. This is the egg cell. You have three antipodal cells over here and you have integuments and stuff like that. Okay, now the pollen grain, it lands up here. It forms a tube like this, which is known as the pollen tube. The pollen tube is carrying the two male gametes out there. Yeah, it comes like this, and slowly when it reaches the micropylar region, you know there are two regions, micropylar regions, where the integuments are not there, where the covering is not there of the ovule. Okay, so it reaches the micropylar region. The pollen tube will slowly, my dear children, get inside one of the synergids. It will get inside one of the synergids, and who guides it? The filiform apparatus. If you remember, on the synergids you have filiform apparatus. What apparatus? Filiform apparatus. Okay, now this filiform apparatus, with the help of it, it will be guiding the pollen tube to get into the synergid. Listen to me carefully. It is not directly meeting the egg cell. Egg cell is basically the female gamete out there, right? It's not directly meeting the egg cell. It slowly gets into the synergids, degenerates it, and then one male gamete will be fusing with the egg cell. One male gamete fuses with the egg cell. So what scenario do I have over here? Female gamete plus the male gamete. The first male gamete out here. So this is the first thing that happens over here. Now ma'am, you said two male gametes are there. Why do you need that? Is that the secondary option that you are having? No, Baba. If you remember, you had two polar nuclei over here in the case of the ovule, right? So the second male gamete which is there, it will come and fuse with the two polar nuclei. So the second thing that happens after this is what? The second thing that happens is the two polar nuclei will be fusing with the second, okay, not the two, second male gamete out there. So first male gamete goes to the synergids. Who guides it? Filiform apparatus guides. Okay, it goes to the synergids, destroys it, gets into the egg cell, fuses with it. That is the first thing. Second thing, the second male gamete goes and fuses with the two polar nuclei, and that happens. You have two separate names for both of these events. The first event that you see over here, it is known as Syngamy. What do you call it? Syngamy. You're fusing. I'll show you in the next slide. Do not worry. I just want to remember. I want you to remember this. Okay. This is known as Syngamy. Now, when the two polar nuclei and the male gamete comes together, it is known as triple fusion. Why, ma'am? Why triple fusion? Two polar nuclei, one male gamete. How many number? You see 3. So that is why it is known as triple fusion. 3 nucleuses are fusing. 1 nucleus of the male gamete, 2 nucleus of the two polar nuclei. Basically, it's triple fusion. So 2 fusions are happening over here, which is why we say angiosperms, that is flowering plants, they show one dynamic process which is known as double fertilization. What is it? Double fertilization, my dearest little children. Okay, so please understand that it is one very important thing out there. Fine. So this is a chemical reaction that happens over here where recognition of pollen grains happen. Slowly the pollen tube would be formed. If it is in 2-cell stage, once the pollen tube is formed, at that point it will divide, form the gametes and send the gamete. If it is 3-cell stage, then no worries. Anyway, it is going to send the gametes out there. Once it comes, it goes to the micropylar region. Okay, gets an entry to the synergid through the filiform apparatus and then fuses over here for giving syngamy. Okay, and then the next process is triple fusion. Together both of them, since fusion is happening twice, you call double fertilization. Cool. Now going ahead with the next thing that is happening over here. So here I have a neat picture of things. Okay, so I told you the egg cell which is there, this plus the male gamete, the first male gamete. Now what does it form? That is also one very important question. This is going to form zygote. This is going to form the zygote. Zygote is the cell that is being formed which later divides to form the embryo, the baby plant out there. Now to support it, to provide it nutrition, you need something else also, which is why this is the first male gamete, right? The second male gamete will be fusing with the 2 polar nuclei to give rise to something that is known as endosperm. What, my dear children? Endosperm. That is something that is going to provide nourishment to the zygote, such that the zygote, which is single-celled, my dear children, can divide and form an embryo. And this embryo, just like how human beings are formed, this embryo will be forming a fetus. In the case of that, in the case of plants, it will be forming a baby plant out there. Okay, so that is why we need endosperm. This process is known as syngamy. This process is known as triple fusion. Okay, got it? And together you call this as double fertilization. Now another very important thing that I want you to remember is that if you remember, all of the cells out there were haploid. We are having half the number of chromosomes because it is a result of meiosis, right? Remember, meiosis happened, you got 4 megas per cell, 3 of them degenerated, 1 of them was left, it was haploid. This nucleus divided and you get these many cells out there. So all of them are haploid apart from this particular cell which is out there, which is known as central cell. 2 polar nuclei is a part of the central cell out there. Okay, please understand that. So over here, this male gamete that comes, that is also haploid. Okay, the egg cell which is there, that is also haploid. Haploid comes together, you get diploid zygote. 2N, diploid zygote. Okay, now when zygote divides, all of the cells of the zygote will be diploid only. If you're talking about the second male gamete, my dear children, what happens over here? Here also it is haploid, but if you talk about the polar nuclei out there, each of them are haploid and haploid. So N plus N gives what? 3N condition. This is known as triploid. So the endosperm which is there for nourishment, it is going to be triploid in nature, whereas the zygote which is there, it should be diploid in nature. Please understand that as well. So over here, release of male gametes. After entering one of the synergids, the pollen tube releases 2 male gametes into the cytoplasm. Syngamy, first fertilization. 1 male gamete fuses with the X nucleus. This fusion is known as syngamy. It results in the formation of a diploid zygote. Triple fusion, second fertilization. The other male gamete fuses with the 2 polar nuclei in the central cell which has the 2 polar nuclei. Same thing, right? This fusion of the 3 haploid nuclei, N plus N, forms a triploid primary endosperm nucleus. What do you call this? Triploid primary endosperm nucleus. So nucleus that is being formed. Okay, and now this particular nucleus later would be dividing, again cell wall will be forming, and it is forming a layer that is known as endosperm. That is the next step that happens. In general, we say endosperm is being formed, so it is actually primary endosperm nucleus which is being formed over here. And this process is known as triple fusion. Now the next step also I explained you, it is known as double fertilization. Since both syngamy and triple fusion occurs in the same embryo sac, yeah, The process is known as double fertilization. This is unique feature of the flowering plants. Now what happens? What is the post-fertilization development that you can see after fertilization? What is the thing that happens? The central cell after triple fusion becomes primary endosperm cell. So the nucleus is they all fused, it is primary endosperm nucleus. This is cell that is there. In the central cell everything is happening, right? This particular cell which is there, over here everything is happening, right? So obviously primary endosperm nucleus belongs to this cell. This cell is known as primary endosperm cell. So the primary endosperm cell is being formed and later it develops into just endosperm. It nourishes the embryo and the zygote develops into the embryo. So this process happens because of the endosperm, because the endosperm is nourishing what? The baby zygote to form the embryo. Got it? Yes. Yes. So that's about double fertilization. Now I was thinking I would be completing this part also in this particular video, but I think I should take some time to complete it. Okay, so probably in the next video we would be completing all about the endosperm and the embryo. Okay, so yes, as promised, I am going to discuss a few questions out there which is related to the topic that we just studied. Okay, so that everything we studied can get cemented in your brain so well and you can remember for years and years, and probably you might thank me later after 3 to 4 years, or you might never thank me, but anyway, it's just fine. So do not look here because it's all secret, which I have to teach you in the next particular video. I was just kidding. Okay, so over here, my dear children, I have the first question of the practice into action section, that is pollination by water is limited to how many genera? Now this is something that I was telling that you cannot expect a question from it, and this is how it turns out to be, my dear children. So about 20 genera mostly monocotyledons, about 30 genera mostly monocotyledons, about 10 genera mostly dicotyledons, about 30 genera mostly dicotyledons. So it is asking in how many genera do you see water pollination? That is the question in easy manner. And in your NCERT there is a straight statement about 30 genera mostly dicotyledons. Is it that? No. If you have read the statement properly, it was about 30 genera mostly what? Monocotyledons. This is your answer for the question. And if you are not still able to be sure about it, I will be showing you that particular statement. So over here, 30 genera mostly monocotyledons, this is your answer. So they show water pollination, and I am pretty sure none of us would remember 30, 40, 50 and things like that. Get it? It is difficult for us to remember. So that is why I am telling you, please, as I am telling you, stress on this particular part, 30 genera, and all of them are monocotyledons, as in they just have one cotyledon. About cotyledon we will be talking about in the next session, so stay tuned for that. Now the next question that we are having, which of the following statements X, Y and Z are completely correct for corn? Corn, okay. Corn shows what type of pollination? Try to remember, tassels and all. Remember, statement X is flowers possess attractive color and fragrance. So is it true for corn? Does their flower have attractive color and fragrance? Well, attractive color and fragrance is a part of plants which are insect pollinated, right? Is corn insect pollinated? Next, so statement Y, pollen grains are small, dry and light in weight. That is a feature of wind pollinated plant. So is corn a wind pollinated plant? Statement Z, corn is air pollinated plant. That is equal to wind pollinated plant. So I'll say I find Z option to be correct for corn as well as Y option to be correct for corn, because it is wind pollinated plants feature, right? But X option which is there, it is insect pollinated plant feature, and corn is not insect pollinated, my dear children. So can I say this is false, whereas both of these statements are correct? X is false, Z and Y is true. This becomes your answer. Okay, so in your practice into action section, for the second question, this is your answer. C is your answer. Now going ahead with the next one. Arrange the given statement in correct order of their occurrence. Okay, male gametes enter the cytoplasm of synergids. You have to go by the flow, okay, which is the correct order of the the fertilization. Okay, so male gametes enter the cytoplasm of the synergids Before that, generative cell divides and produces 2 male gametes. Pollen grains possesses generative cell and tube cell. On breakage of synergid, 1 male gamete fertilized with the egg cell. So the first scenario that we have is, Baba, you have 2 cells in pollen grains. One is generative cell and the other one is what? The tube cell. Agree? Tube cell is basically a vegetative cell. So this is the first one. So third statement would be the first statement out there. Now, the generative cell which is there, it would be dividing to produce 2 male gametes, right? So that would be the second statement. After that, the male gamete which is there, it will try to enter the cytoplasm of the synergid. Okay, that is the third statement. Now, after that, once it enters, on the breakage of synergid, 1 male gamete fertilized with the egg cell, that would be the fourth statement. So fourth is exactly fourth only. Okay, looking about, so it's basically 3, 2, 1 and 4. 3, 2, 1 and 4, your answer is B option. Okay, so you have to be really careful with that. You have to be really careful with what you're reading. Go slowly and read all the options when you have questions like this, and then only find the answer. Okay, now going ahead with the homework question. So I've given you one more homework. I hope you remember. Do that. You let me know in the comment section. Yeah, that's how I'll get to know you're watching the video. So yes, in next question, in Camelina, flowers are produced on underground rhizomes or root, aerial branches. What do you mean by aerial branches? As in the one that is above the soil. Okay, the aerial branches which stands like this. So and the leaves, or A and B both. So you have to tell the answer. Only if you have heard my session clearly you will be able to answer this, and this is a tricky question if at all you do not know the concept properly, or probably if you didn't look at the picture properly. Yes, so in Camelina, flowers are produced on what? Tell me the answers in the comment section below. You can put this as homework question 2. And you put it, I'll reply to you whether your answers are correct or not. And if at all you do not know the answer, wait for the next session. I'll be discussing it there. And with that, we complete the second portion of sexual reproduction in flowering plants, my dearest children. After that, we will have one small session where we'll be talking about the endosperm and the embryo and all of this thing, apomixis and polyembryony. And then we will be finishing it off and solving a lot more PYQs, KCET PYQs of 2025 as well, including 2025. We'll be doing that. So please don't be worried. Just stay tuned for it. And as I said, if you like it, like the video. Share the video, subscribe to our channel, and also comment down your valuable comments. And if at all you have doubts persisting, please ask me in the comment section as well. Lots of love from my end. Bye-bye. Take care.